LA Wolves, start watching my stream.
I finished building this watchtower and that'll be that.
Okay, so I'll just wait for a minute or so. Welcome to logistics training. Training about logistics, but not of course the entire logistics because that is complicated. More specifically on the first half of it, about how to make stuff, how to produce stuff, how to store stuff. To start, deployment. Where do I spawn as a logistician, as a backline logistician? The backline being a region where stuff is produced and manufactured. The backline in this war, one of the backline regions is Tempest Island, and more specifically Lies Haven. This is where we at ETDK Logistics are based out of, so I'll go there. What is a backline region? A backline region is a region that has stuff such as a refinery, a factory, and optionally a mass production factory. But also, of course, a seaport or a depot. What are each of those will be explained. So, we spawn, and of course, what do we take with ourselves? What is the standard logistician kit? Since we are in the backline making stuff, the only thing we really need is your trusty radio. A radio is the thing that allows you to see how to see map intelligence and see update. You take the equipment. Simple as. So what do we start with? We started from well, so to make stuff you need materials. To make those materials, you need raw materials. One of these raw materials is scrap, salvage. And I'll show you how to mine that salvage. I shall use this completely completely accidentally placed here dump truck being very conveniently placed and conveniently locked as well. Dump truck to drive to one of the salvage fields. So a salvage field is, you can notice by salvage field by looking at the map and seeing a bolt icon. When you hover over the bolt icon, you will see the icon of salvage and also a little number. The number goes from 0 to 256. That is the number of nodes. More nodes, more scrap. Simple as. What I'm driving here is a dump truck, because there's different ways of transporting salvage and overall materials around. Oh, that's even more convenient. Okay. I'll have to get through that. Obviously, salvage is obviously not the only raw resource you can find in this game. There are many others, there are a few others. To look at the map again. Sulfur! Which is used to make explosive materials, which is used for advanced artillery shells, storm cannon ammunition, and advanced demolition tools. Component fields, which are used to make confined materials or armor mats. They're the hardest to get, and the most used. Because they're used for such stuff as tanks, rocket launchers, sniper rifles. These two fields spawn at half the rate, only spawn at 167 nodes. 1.5 second respawn. I guess I'll have to wait. So of course what I have met here right now is what's called a server restart. A very not nice thing that just happens sometimes out of nowhere. Wonderful. So carry on. Component fields and sulfur fields spawn at half the amount. There's only half the nodes, while again a salvage field has 256. The component and sulfur fields have only 167. They're mined slower. And also another thing, they can only be mined with sledgehammers and harvesters. Which of those I would touch upon, if not for the restart. Ask us for a moment. What is salvage turned into? Salvage is turned into basic materials and explosive materials, which are most basic materials of this game. Even better recovery mode. I mean, it's good that they added it, but for this specific place, it's goddamn annoying. He's not moving, just spawned in. Oh, I guess I forgot to ask a question. Do any of you have any questions about the clan in and of itself, how we operate? That's a no. Alright, go on.
What's the main Logi hub we are using?
Liar's Haven, the place I spawned into.
Okay. Isn't that a bit too busy? Because
Yes, it is very busy. And I'll be honest, I'm thinking about asking our lead of logistics, Sergeant Ivan, about maybe switching to a different logi hub, but that's a different thing. Well, it seems to be working out fine for now, for us for now.
what about the oil wells?
Oh goodness, I forgot about oil wells. Oil wells are used are refined into oil wells give you oil, and oil is refined into petrol. Petrol is a specialized kind of, basically, theoretically, it's supposed to be basically like diesel as in fuel, but better. It is not very better. If you put petrol in the vehicle instead of diesel, it changes almost nothing. Besides, maybe, if I'm not mistaken, acceleration. That's pretty much it. But petrol does have a use. So you talk about oil well, and it's one of the automated mines in this game. Because besides fields where you can just hammer out stuff and mine stuff normally, there's also mines, automated mines, which take fuel, either diesel or petrol. And the simple way to work is that you give fuel, and every so often for that fuel you'll get a set amount of resource that mine gives you. And petrol's useful there because it makes it speeds the work of the mine. It makes the mine more efficient.
Well, so the main use of petrol is not in vehicles but in mines.
Yes, that's the best use for petrol because not much of a reason to use it in vehicles. Pretty much done. Unless you want to make some meme stuff like I don't know, like speed buses or something, or really speedy motorcycles. But that's pretty much it. I cannot. Seemingly. Because this is the first time I've actually encountered recovery mode. Hello. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a good thing. It's normally like there's a little pop up that says restart 20 minutes or something. Except I started my game 10 minutes ago, so I didn't see that, I guess. Okay, thank fuck. Okay, so we are at the salvage field. How do you mine salvage? You get out a hammer, the one you start out with, which is used to, build stuff, but also to mine stuff, and you hold down left mouse button and gather. Each of these old piles is a node. And that's pretty much all there is to scrapping. But this is the fact I have to use a hammer. The hammers are slow and painful to use. Thankfully, a bit later in the war, you unlock different types of different ways of mining. You unlock a sledgehammer, which is basically the hammer but longer stick and bigger piece of steel. Apparently, that's hard technology. But also, even later on, you unlock a harvester. Harvester's a vehicle, advanced vehicle for scrapping. It is way faster, way more efficient, way easier to use, but also is a fuel guzzler and costs our mats to make. So, I've only mined like a bit over 200 scrap because I don't need more for presentation purposes. I'll put this in this low logger. So, another thing. Why did they pick this truck? Why not the normal truck? Like, see this guy over here, right? Well, because this truck, the dump truck, the load logger, is specifically meant for transporting and hauling raw materials. The truck you see here, the little canvas truck, is meant to transport everything. So what's the difference? The load logger, the dump truck, has 20 slots in it. That means you can carry 2,000 scrap, but it can only carry raw materials, like salvage. The canvas truck can carry everything, but has only 15 slots. So it can only carry 1,500 raw materials. Also forgot to mention, so when you have the sulfur and component fields, at the beginning of the wall, when you only have hammers unlocked, they're not sledgehammers, you cannot mine them actually. They just kind of sit there idly. And you have to wait for sledgehammers until you can mine them. When the sledgehammer is unlocked, those fuels get mined really fast. Because everyone needs components. Well, components do. Souls not as much, because not everyone needs 150mm artillery shells, not everyone needs 300mm artillery shells, 300mm storm cannon ammunition. And not everyone's going to be producing satchel charges until very late in the war. The guy sitting in front of you actually is driving the third way of driving around salvage, a flatbed. A flatbed is a overall generic logistical vehicle for transporting mass quantities of stuff. The way it works is that you can just, that you have the vehicle itself, and you can put different types of containers on it. Like this guy has a salvage container. A salvage container can carry 5,000 scrap. Not much more efficient, right? It pretty much is. The only downside to it is that you have to use a crane to on and offload it. That's pretty much it. It's very advantageous if you're, scrapping with your friends, not being alone. So, at the refinery. And I will do this. What I've just done is done what's called a BMAT queue. It's a queue of basic materials. So the main thing about this place called the refinery, where you turn useless stuff to more useful stuff, is, we have two main sections. Refinement, where you turn stuff to other stuff, where you can see, number one, there's a little drop-down menu, personal, public. What does this mean? If it's personal, anything that you make will be yours and fully private. No one can touch it. If you put it in public, all you refine will be going to this little place on the right-hand side, stockpile. So the stockpile part is accessible to everyone in the game. Anyone can take out of it and use it. So one of the ways you can help your team, if you don't really know how to, like overall the faction, I guess as a whole, is make public BMATs, for example. Or make public fuel, there's not enough, but fuel's almost always. So, the thing about refinement. The three main columns we have here. Left column, raw materials. Right column, what we turn them into. Middle column, the ratio. So for example, what I mean by ratio is, for example, when you have the column, the row of salvage and basic materials, the ratio 2 to 1 means that I need 2 salvage for every 1 basic material. Simple enough. So now on to explaining what you refine these things into. There are 3 things you can refine salvage into. Basic materials, which are used for for producing pretty much everything and building pretty much everything as well. Diesel, the most common and typical fuel. Most of the time, you don't really need to produce diesel. Why? Because if you can see here, there's loads of 90% of the time, you'll have loads of it in the stockpile. It almost never runs out. Next up, we have explosive materials. Again, for producing stuff. They don't have much of a use in themselves, but they can be used to make explosive, to make stuff like just rockets, grenades, and such. And I mean, of course, ammunition, heavy ammunition, explosive ammunition. What do you turn components into? Well, armats. That's another thing why fine materials are so rare. This ratio is 20 to 1, which is kind of, not nice. Yeah. And what's also not shown here is there's actually another thing you can turn components into. Concrete. Concrete materials are a thing that are made with a concrete mixer, but that's more related to combat engineering and building bunkers. But just so you know, you can use it on, basically, if you ever see a container of components in a bunker base, that's what it's for concrete. It's for making the bunker base harder and stronger. Oil and petrol. I explained it earlier. Sulfur and heavy explosive materials also explained earlier. These three, which I have the purple color thanks to the mod I have, these are tech materials. This game's interesting tech system. That'll be around the end of the training, so you can basically ignore this. Also, we have expiry time. So of course, when you have something, find something, it'll stay here for a time. This time being 2 days and an hour. What happens after 2 days and an hour? All this goes into the stock public, just gone. It's so people will just not it's so people can't just basically use this as storage for stuff and also just hoard shit in here to never be seen again on the front line. So, as I was talking at the beginning of it, this is done, complete. On my VNC node. So what I'll do now is press right click and retrieve as crates. I've got a crate of VMATs now. I have to put in my inventory of my physical body because this dump truck, as I said previously, cannot transport everything. Can only transport raw materials. So if I try to put crate of basic materials, it'll say, this, it cannot carry it basically. Oh well. That's basically about the refinery. So now we're gonna go to the next place. So I've got a crate of I have got a crate of VMATs. Also, I forgot one thing. Crates. What's a crate? A crate is basically different ways of taking out stuff from the refinery. Because obviously, I can take out, I can take these VMATs out, like this. I have 18 VMATs, but I want a crate of VMATs. Why? Because this little orange text here, reservable, means you can store it privately in a reserve stockpile. And the important thing is, not everything stacks. So crates of VMATs are 100 VMATs, but it's important to know not all raw materials are created in hundreds. Basically, everything besides VMATs is created in 20s. So, for example, here I have 500 VMATs. That's not 5 crates of VMATs. That's 20 crates of VMATs. And this is 18 crates of VMATs. Simple enough. So what's the so of course again. So what does that mean? I can store these VMATs. And that means I can use a little place called the storage depot. Alternatively, the seaport. The seaport is the place I'm going to drive into. This place. Quite a snazzy place. Use the seaport out 2 ways. If you're on the vehicle, you can drive up here, press E, and interact with it. I will use this little button here to put away my vehicle. It was a public vehicle anyway, so again. Seaport. Press E. What do I see? Let's see, the stockpile all section. Everything in the stockpile section is counted as crates. Which means, simple enough. The seaport is used to store stuff for future use. But obviously, I'm not going to put this crate of VMATs that I have spent so much time getting and making and manufacturing to the public seaport, as you can see, because I don't want someone to steal it. I want to use it for myself, goddammit. So, exactly. Fuck the randoms. Joking, obviously. So how do I store stuff? For myself. And for myself only. This little button, Create Reserve Stockpile. Enter name, submit. Now I got my own little corner, I can hold stuff and no one will never see the light of day. And how do I put something in a stockpile? Simple as. Right, have a crate, right click, submit stockpile, submit all to stockpile. And poof! I have stored a crate of VMATs into a stockpile. One, wasn't it? But obviously, sometimes I may want to share my stockpile with someone else. Give them access to it so they too can hold stuff, but to never see the light of day. How do I do that? Access code, or passcode. There are 2 ways to get a passcode. Either click this button here to view the passcode, so you can just write it down and then input it. Here, access reserve stockpile. You enter the 6-digit passcode, and you access the stockpile. Meaning, having access to the stockpile means I can take stuff out of it, and I can put stuff into it. Other things. Make reserve stockpile visible. What does this mean? If I press this, nothing seemingly changes except, well, if I click obviously on this, there are a lot of stockpiles. And an important thing is that the limit of stockpiles you can have access, to at the same time is around 3 or 6, depending on how you do it, because there's really trickery with it. Like if you make stockpiles, then access stockpiles or whatever, it's weird. So obviously that's way more than that limit, or that's way more than you should be able to access it, right? And that is correct, because I can't access most of these. Because these are public stockpiles. Stockpiles which everyone can see, and everyone can put stuff into, but you can't take out of it. So here's a TechMate stockpile. I could put stuff into it, but I can't take it out because I have no access to it. If I got multiple stockpiles, how do I transfer stuff between them? The dumb way will be to take it out, switch stockpile, and put it into the stockpile. But there's a smarter way. Right-click, transfer item, and select the stockpile. I'll select this stockpile called ATK dump. What is it? I'll look at it shortly. So, what if I don't need this stockpile anymore? It's useless to me. I want to get rid of it. This little button. Reserve, reach reserve stockpile. Press that, only, obviously, an important thing. Only the creator of the stockpile can see these 4 buttons and interact with them. That's another thing. So press this. Yes. Poof, it's gone. Released into the void as the public stockpile. So, continuing, what is the ATK dump stockpile that put this into? This is the clan access stockpile. The stockpile everyone in this clan, including you, have access to. What that means is that what is this? What is the use case for this stockpile? The use case is for if you want help. The clan, or what's the logistics section, battalion, aka us and me and others. And simply enough, and the idea is that you simply just make stuff, you scrap stuff, you refine stuff, and you put it in here. Simple as. And that's it. Where can you find the code to the dump? Obviously, the code to the dump is different every war because the stockpile has to be remade every war. So you can always find the code to the dump and all other dumps and all other stockpiles that everyone, the whole clan has access to, on the war objectives channel below the announcements channel on Discord. It's there, simply enough. Simple enough. So to summarize the stockpile here, if you want to help the clan, the clan get prepared for the Saturday operation, help us produce stuff. You can make stuff, you can refine stuff, you scrap stuff, and put it into here, and we'll use it for settlement. But now to another thing, categories of items, because obviously this is I'm showing everything, particularly all items. But I often might want to specify what I want to see. So, for example, I want to see rifles and rifle ammunition, small arms, heavy munitions, utility, medical, supplies, uniforms. These are the main categories of items in this game. But let's have 4 more icons. Well, kind of 2, each one having a variation of it. They are called the vehicles and shippables. Vehicles are, well, vehicles, pretty much, obviously. And shippables are stuff such as containers, pallets of stuff, concrete mixers, emplacements, and artillery. But the variation here is that you actually get this, that you have 2 icons here. For example, vehicles, you have a vehicle available crate icon and a vehicle without crate icon. What does this mean? Well, there's 2 ways of storing vehicles. A vehicle has crates, a crate of vehicles being free vehicles, more compact, but and you can unpack it into that. But you have to unpack it to use the vehicles. When you unpack a crate of vehicles, it goes into here, which is the raw vehicles themselves. And how to take out a vehicle? Simply enough, click, and poof, it appears on one of these grey pads. Here being 2 on a depot, as in basically the seaport but land-based. You only have one of these pads and on a crane. Important thing is, do not stand on these depots, on these grey pads. Do not drive on them. Do not be on them, because people will get angry, and people don't like that. So the life of the logistician in this game will begin with you taking out a truck and fueling it up, because with the fact that there's pretty much always fuel trucks nearby the seaport, and doing stuff. So on to now, we're going to talk about the factory. Obviously make stuff. So obviously, to make stuff, I have to get some more resources to make that stuff. So I shall take out the dump stockpile 4 crates of VMATs. which is all I need for this demonstration. So this is the factory. In most towns, there's 2 factories. And the specific Logi hubs, you can have more than 1 factory. It's the only building of this kind that gets doubled. So I'm thinking, what do I see? 2 sections. Production and output. In production, I have the same categories, but not all of them, as in the seaboard, and the item categories in the seaboard. And when I click choose, I get a little, section of little icons for everything. A grayed out icon, that means it's a piece of equipment that is not yet unlocked for the tech system, or won't be unlocked from the tech system, and doesn't mean that it's not accessible. So how do you make stuff in the factory? Simple enough. You press the button to make something. Mike, wait a sec. Sorry. So for example, let's say I want to make the Loudcast rifle. I press up, it appears on the right hand side in the output section. On this little row, the same icon as the section, as the category. What information do I see about this? Also, what have I found? What else have I found out? I can only make 4 types of 4 things in a certain category at the same time. It does not have to be the same thing. So, for example, if I want to make some lowcasters, but also some, let's say, I don't know, 12.7 ammunition, I can. Nothing will stop me. I'll make more lowcasters for presentation purposes. So, what do you notice? What can you notice? Number 1, time it takes. 4 minutes, 40 seconds. Simple enough. Time, of course, is changed depending on what's being made. Number 2, the cost. In this case, these loudcasters only cost 400 US. On the right hand side was needed, on the left hand side is what you have. This counts what you have in your truck and on your inventory, but also what's in the inventory of the factory itself. But obviously, it can cost more than that. An important thing also is that you can only produce one thing of a certain category at a time, one queue at a time of a certain category. But you can produce multiple categories at the same time. So, for example, in this factory, I can make 4 rifles and, let's say, 20mm ammunition at the same time. Nothing's going to stop me. Nothing. This will drop that menu. Like in the refinery, it's personal or public, but also something between. Ignore the ITF. That's a completely different thing. ATDK-L, that's logistics squad. What does it mean if I do this and stop production and I click this play button to stop producing? Well, the mats are gone. The time is going down because it's being made, and because I set this to the squad, that means that when this is done in 4 minutes 20 seconds, it'll appear here. And what the way factory works is that when something is finished after that time, all is finished and you can take it all out at the same time. In this case, 4 crates. Because I set this to squad, to my squad, that means that when it's done, not only I will be able to take it out, but also my squad mates. In this case, Foxtrot Express is the only one that's online. By clicking on this little icon of 3 dudes, you can take it out. There's another category, because we see public. So since it's public, that means anyone will be able to take this out once then. But again, clan man bad, so obviously this will only be ours. And that's pretty much it for the normal factory. So, if you want to cancel an order, you can just press the little X. It'll cancel it, it will, we'll be gone. The resources will be fully refunded, no matter how much progress was made. Oh, also another thing. So you see the number of how many queues there are. The way the factory works is that for each category separately, it'll basically be the factory only can do 1 queue at a time. So if you have 5 people for example, was 5 or 6 people, which is the maximum, wanting to make, for example, rifles, and putting in an order for a queue for rifles, that means we'll first do the first guy's order, then the second guy, then the third guy's order. That's what the timer here is showing. How much time? The timer here is showing how much time until all the orders here are done. If I were to, for example, let's say put 20mm ammunition, because I want to make something myself, and it adds to the top of the queue, that means that I'll have to wait the 9 minutes for those guys' orders to be done, but also another 6 for this to be done. Simple as. The limit for number of queues in a factory, in a normal factory, is 6. Nothing. In the refinery, we had the expiry time thingy, and it's like I was saying. In this case, the expiry time starts counting from when the piece of stuff is done, and in terms of a normal factory, it takes around an hour. After that, it'll just go dumped into this little inventory space. Nothing. Product kits. Product kits are basically a tech system. Basically, product kits are a way of getting equipment that's not yet fully accessible earlier. We will produce earlier in limited amounts. How to use a prototype kit? You right-click on it and press produce prototype as many times as you can. I decided to make, for example, 4 crate prototype kits of cutlet foe breakers. I don't have the R-mats for those, so I can't really make them, but yeah, if I could, I would. If I were to press this, resources will disappear, and the 4 product kits will also disappear. Simple enough. So that is the factory. Now onto the other type of factory. The mass production factory. Which is, well, a factory but just bigger. And
the best factory.
Exactly. So get up on it, and what do we see? The menu has changed a tiny bit. Different categories. Medical and utility categories are gone. We have vehicles and shippables instead. Number 2. I said earlier that the amount of maximum queues in a factory is 6. In this case, it's 25. So let's see if I can produce something. You might have already noticed by this little heavy munitions thing, but I'm trying to make here 4 crates of rollback gases. In fact, I don't have a lot of resources. Notice one thing: I can make 9 at a time instead of only 4. Number 2, I can only make the Laucasters themselves. Right, so you can't mix and match. You can't make in normal factory, for example. I could make Laucasters and fiddlers at the same time. This I can only make Laucasters at the same time, or all fiddlers at the same time. Another thing, cost. So if I were to make, for example, only make 4 crates, which you should, or you always should make a full order, you might notice this is discounted. In non-factories cost 400 BMATs, and in this case only costs 300. Why is that? Because the MPF has a little discount thingy to it. If you cover a crate in the MPF, it says 10% discount per crate up to 3%. What does that mean? That means every crate that you put into the order will get discounted, each crate being discounted by an increasing amount. So the first crate I put in, it'll be discounted by 10%, from 100 to 90. The second crate, from 100 to 80. The third crate, from 100 to 70. And so on and so forth, up to 50%. Now rifles, this is kind of a meh. Who cares? This is only a saving you of 250 BMAS in this case, only 3 ways. Who cares? Well, there are other things, more expensive things, where this is actually pretty nice. Let's say I want to make the ARC RPG shells. Cost EMATs, cost materials, which which take way longer to manufacture, and the ratio for salvaged EMATs is a bit bigger, a bit smaller, I guess. This is where the discount becomes quite nice, right? Very nice. And this is the main use case for this. Also another thing, time has horribly increased. So when I had my 4 crates of rifle in the factory, it took around 4 minutes. This takes 46 minutes, but that's only 4. Before, they will take an hour 45 minutes. Why? Because that's just how it works. Well, alas, don't be too terrified, because a little known quirk of the MPF means that for every order that's put in, when you put an order into the MPF of a certain category, everything that was put in every order that was put in before you put in the order will be slightly sped up. How much? It depends. It very depends. What this means basically is that the fuller the MPF, the queues will actually go faster, because there'll be the time will be lower because of more orders. So sometimes, what you might get to see is people, for example, when you have to, also the discount thingy. I can't really show it here because I have a order that's done. I can't really take it out. Also, the time it takes for an order to expire and go to public, instead of being an hour, it's some like no one really knows for sure, but it can be like up to like 2 weeks until it's expired. So that's pretty nice. So I talked about earlier about vehicle crates and shippable crates. The question I didn't, the thing I didn't say is how do you actually make those? How to get those? Well, here, simply enough. This is the only way you can make these, and this is the most efficient way to make these. So that's why I want to make containers I can make here. Instead of the other way, for example, making containers and such emplacements and shippables, which is at the construction yard or vehicles at the garage. We have to just get the resources and hammer it out. Also interesting thing is that, for example, things such as containers, a discount is even applied to the crate itself. A shipping container by itself costs 100 BMATs. In this case, a crate of 3 costs 100 BMATs. Which, actually, no, fuck, I forgot. No, I mistook it. No, the number, the number itself is for a single one, not the crate of those, which is kind of dumb. So unfortunately, I can't really show why it's a good. Oh, okay. So the discount for VMATs is, for such thing that common cost VMATs is kind of meh, but for things that cost RMATs, for example, this is fucking amazing. I'm making 15, but I'm paying as if I was making 10, which is pretty nice. And that should be the end. Also, this is the place where, and because of the additional time it takes to make stuff, this is where being able to put stuff into squad is killer. This is why we do a thing called MPF time, that you may have noticed, and one of you has participated in, where we'll get as many people as we can from all around the clan, invite them into the Logi squad, give them materials to make stuff, tell them what to make, and they'll make it, and they can just and that's it for them. It only take 5 minutes of it. They don't have to worry about taking it out because that's our problem to take it out. Also, another thing. So when you have those crates of vehicle and shippables, how do you transport them? Use a little pad. And how do you take this and do stuff with it? I'll show up it later at the end as a little extra bit because of reasons. So at the last kind of really important bit, obviously the tech system. We don't obviously get everything at the start and unlock from the beginning, so we have to unlock it slowly but surely. For this place, the engineering center. The main section you will see here is the technology section. 2 categories: vehicles and everything else. The way the tech system works is that it's split into tiers. A tier is made up of 2 things. Things that are prototypable and things that are auto-tech. What does that mean? Well, the way the tech system works is that, the way the devs want the tech system to work, is that while you are on a salvage field, occasionally after destroying a node of salvage with a hammer, sledgehammer, harvester, the site also getting scrapped, a node of tech materials will appear. The tech materials being those 3 the purple materials I had at the end of the refinery. Those being aluminum, which is used for the everything else tree, and iron and copper, which are used for the vehicles tree. Iron being used for the earlier tiers, for the earlier tiers, and copper being used for the later tiers, for tanks. And yeah, so what does that mean that something's prototypable or not prototypable or auto-tech? So when you look at it here, you notice on the right hand side, these are all grayed out icons. When the tier is finished in tech, these become accessible. Simple as. On the left hand side, what you see now, we can look at a tier that's being tech currently in progress. So when you have those Cutler Fallbreaker prototype kits in the factory, this is how you get them. So the idea of the tech system is that you get those tech materials, refine them, and use them to make prototype kits. By making prototype kit, but you also increment the tech progress. Simple enough. But sometimes there are more than one. For example, the first 3 team, you noticed that there were different things you could prototype, but they're grayed out. Why is that? Because that's what's called a tech choice. Because the devs don't like fun, so they limit what we can sometimes get. And this, for example, in this case on tier 3, our faction has a choice between choosing the bayonet, hangman rifle, the clancy cinder rifle. Everyone chooses bayonet, but that's another thing. The way the tech choice system works is that basically the thing that gets prototyped more wins out, and then when the progress gets to 100, that gets stacked. Everything else gets thrown into the trash, basically. Never to be looked again. Besides, it's never to be seen again. To be seen again in the far future. Why, I don't want to bother explaining. Honestly, so that's how it's supposed to work according to the devs. How it really works? Quite differently. Why is that? Well, because the number of tech progress you get from making product varies, actually quite a bit. Based on what? Based on population, based on this, based on that. Weird other things, no one really has a clear idea what actually works on this. So, what we have done, we do, as a faction, well actually the colonials do something similar-ish, but not as organized as we. We have one group, the tech maids, who, well, basically, well, during, throughout the war, they'll collect tech from us, the normal Logi men. We'll aggregate it, look out for the best time for the best rates between tech materials and tech progress, dump it all in and get as much as they can. And of course, give out the product kits. But of course, then the question, of course, is how tech choices are done now. Is it that the tech mains just choose themselves what they think is the best? No, it's chosen by the entire faction, kind of. So there's this Discord server called the Warden Unity Hubble, just WA, as it's called by most people. It's a Discord that's meant to be all community for all the wardens of this game. And the way it works, simply in here, this case, is that you can get verified in Discord, and after you get verified, you get access to a channel that allows you to vote in polls, what should be teched. The thing that gets the most votes in the poll gets teched. Simple as. This means that basically what gets teched is up to the people, to everyone. Because in the way the devs envision it, the only people who will be actually choosing what to be teched will be the people in the back lines. In the way we have it, everyone can choose it. Everyone can vote, and everyone can have a voice in what should be teched, what should be chosen. Most of the time, the way these are done is the way what is pitted against each other as a tech choice is most of the time quite actually obvious. The best example being tier 1. Shotgun versus the listening kit. The shotgun is, to be frank, a piece of shit. The listening kit is actually very useful. So it's a favourite to give everyone voted for the listening kit. No discussion. It gets harder, for example, in cases like this, Cinder Hangman versus Bayonets, because the Cinder, and to a way lesser degree, but still somewhat, the Hangman are, well, kind of useful, kind of must have. But they just get completely outdone by the Bayonet, so everyone voted. It seems to have harder questions. For example, in the vehicle tree, you had the choice earlier of the heavy armored car, the Freeman, was the Spitfire utility vehicle. These are a bit more controversial. There'll be way more conversation on them, but in the end, of course, one will win out and the other one will lose. How controversial these choices are tends to depend a lot. And most of the time it's fine, but sometimes it can get very heated. Especially when there's, for example, tech choices such as like a tank versus a different tank, and it can get quite bad. But anyway, that's the tech system. And normally this is where I would end Logi training, but for reasons, basically, I have decided to also start adding something new, a different little section, which is called cranes. How to use them, conjunction flatbeds, or cranes and flatbeds, and how to use them. So about the flatbed as a logistical vehicle, but that didn't really say much. You said it can be used to transport mass quantities and you have to use cranes. Well, how do you exactly use them? Oh, sure, I just have to get one. as you see, these two people have decided to block the pad with bodies, which is not what you should do. Normally I'd screen at them, but I have to keep up a veneer of being normal. So I go into the stockpile. Oh, look, a test. Let's test stockpile, the main logistical stockpile, and take out a flatbed. I'll get myself a flatbed. Lock it to myself, because these are things that are expensive. It costs armats, and you don't want to lose them. Go to this very nice fuel truck. Fuel up. Wait a bit, because it takes a bit longer to fuel up the flatbed. Don't need full of course, but and go up. As a simple instruction, I'll just show, or the example I'll use is the MPF, because I have some stuff to take out of the MPF. So as I told you a bit earlier, when you have crates of vehicles and shippables in the MPF, you don't take them out like in items from a factory into your truck's inventory, because, well, obviously logically you can't. So you take them on a flatbed. Well, you put them on a flatbed. So have a look. You drive up to the MPF. You go into the slow crane, which is blocked by a tree for some reason. And I look, and I press the little green check mark to take it out. This is how crate of vehicles and shippables look. All vehicles and shippables crates look the same, which means that identifying which is kind of is basically impossible. So actually, how to use the crane? The way you use the crane is you right click. It's kind of like a gun. You right click to move it around. When you are at a thing you can interact with the crane, which actually, below the crane you also see a little icon. The little red circle over climbing through means you can't do anything. Gears, 2 gears icons means I can, well, use it. Then the icon changes a bit. So, if the icon of this little target icon, that means I can just put it down there. WAD means I can rotate the things in the crane, so it means I can nicely put it away. The gear with a little arrow on it means it points to the place where you can put stuff on. So for example, in this case I'll just put it on this flatbed. And that's it, in this case. So now of course I'll take this flatbed to the seaport, and unload it into the seaport. An important thing, of course, is that for you to be able to use a crane on something, it has to be packaged. How do you package something? You press E on it and look for the icon of a box and arrow on it. If you take out something with a crane, the reason why you go into a crane when you take out something is that so if you take vehicle crates out, they often come out as pre-packaged already. So pretty enough.
Pure quello piglia un po' di roba, non fa niente.
So of course I will take the screen. Go slowly but surely and take this off. Go again slowly but surely. And put on all these pants. So besides being able to take out stuff on these pants, you can also, well, put stuff on these pants. Next question is, what can you package? Well, obviously all different types of containers and vehicle crates. Oh, so, I have the shovel crate here. I want to put it in. I press this button, submit loading area equipment. The iron ship, the freighter. And now I would, go back theoretically and continue the missions while I will. Goodness. So basically that's all I wanted to talk about for logistics training. Do any of you have any questions about anything logistics related? Gamma, you go first. Okay. Wolves, you want to ask something?
Yeah, maybe it's not so Logi related, but I noticed you have a different shader for the map and for the items.
Oh, that's what's called mod. Mods are something that's kind of just there. the devs just kind of don't care about it. It's basically just a way to change the game. How do you mod stuff? You basically just take a file that is a mod and just put it in a specific folder. Yeah, you can. Actually, no, the invite, no, you can't do that. Yeah, you can just send the mods Discord is just where all these mods are. But you don't have to be on there. So you just have to find the files, and there's a specific file path where you can put these into. There's like a folder that's called like Voxel War Content Packs or something like that. Yeah, you just drop just sort of file and it'll change it and stuff. Okay, so that's gonna be it for your training. I just have to give me a sec for you to get all of your IDs in. Okay, now I need to give you the passes. Okay, all of you have been given logistics training passes, and so that'll be it for your training.